Welcome, everybody. My
Hello,
name's
hello.
Jeremy. Hi, Jerry.
What up,
We got
everyone?
we got the Powell towel today.
Oh, yes. I wish I had my Powell towel.
So I
We're
think
swinging around like helicopter money. Helicopter
he
money
didn't
is on its way.
he didn't exactly drop interest rates today, but I think the signal is that that's what's going to happen. So we've seen silver take off. What's the price right now? Um,
We're up $39 spot, which is up on the week so far. Silver's up 2%. So we're up 95 cents today, which is actually 2.5% in one day, all in the back of Powell. The headline: Gold futures rise as Fed chair opens the pathway to interest rate cuts. This is over the course of, which is very interesting. This is over the course of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. This is the time where all Fed central bank members love to convene, have steak dinners, fly there in their emissions, uncontrolled airplanes landing, having steaks, and patting each other on the back and talking about how they're going to do, how well they're going to do on the currencies, keeping inflation down and keeping employment up. But we were anticipating Powell to start jawboning as he usually does, and start talking up the US dollar and resisting the calls for interest rate cuts. But the headline goes: chair opens the pathway to interest rate cuts. Futures are up. And Powell's speech at the Jackson Hole Symposium in Wyoming noted that prospects of a sharper slowdown in the job market could reduce concerns that tariff driven cost increases will fuel inflation, changing the outlook. Hence the Powell towel. He throws in the towel. Interest rate cuts, he effectively opens the door for interest rate cuts. Precious metals take off.
so we were just talking before we jumped on, and we were looking at a couple of charts about the rates. And I think it's important to note that definitely knowing which way the rates are going can push the market, right? Can ignite the market. But when you look at a 20-year chart in rates, you have rates starting at 3% and plus in 2000, dropping all the way to zero, going sideways for several years, coming back up, going back down, then it comes back up again. It's a pretty crazy chart. I'll put it up in while we're talking when
Mm-hmm.
we cut the show. But at the same time, the price of gold has just been pretty much rising over the last 20 years. So it, these are kind of day to day, what we said, it's like the weather. It's not necessarily the season,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely it's an indicator that you're going to have a lower valued dollar, and that's why people continue to hold gold. So this isn't necessarily along the narrative lines of gold being remonetized and the anchor of the financial system. This is sort of the narrative of, yep, we've got inflation. You're going to want to protect yourself.
And it helps us time for the opportunistic buyers, who are looking to buy on the dips, who are looking to buy on value. That was, I think, during midweek, where going into the news, you want to buy the rumor. So this is it. You would have bought during the midweek and then sell the news. Well, the metals markets are up. We sort of maybe, some people have missed the dip, but knowing what silver, especially silver, does during interest rate cut cycles is very important, as you share that chart that I think is coming up very soon. You've had cuts, and that's the season. The season is your dollar's losing purchasing power. You will need to convert out of fiat currencies and get into ounces ultimately, because they're liquid. It is tier one capital, and as you saw, the big rate cut initially started in 2007, 2008 for the crisis, the great financial crisis back then. But the question is, what happens during those times? You think that you're going to be in, this is great for the stock market. But when we look at the stocks, any stock, any asset is denominated in a currency that is losing purchasing power. We brought up prime examples in the Caracas Stock Exchange, where they were hyperinflating, they were cutting interest rates, but the currency underlying their stock market and their asset, the stocks, were dying underneath. Bolivars were dying. They became worthless. Those who got out and got into ounces were able to salvage their wealth. So that is an amazing thing to consider. And as I share, I want to share this chart just to show you what, um, you know, what silver does and has done over the last um, over the last few interest rate cycles. You could see that silver has gained over an average of 413%. And here is the area where the interest rate cuts started to happen in 2007 and 8. And then silver just takes off. It becomes like a hockey stick action. So you haven't missed a boat. This is Silver Squeeze 2.0. This is going to have a you know a domino effect across the board because people will be asking for delivery of their silver at this point.
Um, so since you just said that the expectation of the market rising, um, I'll show you this one. This is a very technical chart brought to you by Bob Coleman. The bend the knee pattern. Uh,
Is
I
that
like
is that
where
Powell? Yeah,
yeah,
Jerome
where it just goes
Powell.
straight up there. No, but look, let's just talk about for a minute where we are in the silver price. Because last year, 2024, it was a real struggle, like a football match, yard for yard, trying to get back above $30.
All right.
And there was a feeling in the market that if you could just break above 27, get to 28, you'd feel that getting above 30 was inevitable. Now we did, and then it cracked way higher. It got to 34. It it got managed. It feels like it got managed back down below 30 to close out the year, which I always thought was kind of interesting because it's just giving you further runway for the rest of for 2025.
Right.
And so now in 2025, we're 8 months into the year. Silver's trading at $39 an ounce, and so it's happened a lot quicker to get past another $10 in the market. And last year, I remember talking to clients and saying, where if you get to $28 an ounce, you're going to feel like 30 is inevitable. Once you
Right.
hit 40, it's going to feel like 50 is inevitable, which is very much, I feel, in line. You could overlay the theories with Michael Oliver, who's always looking at momentum.
Right.
And he's been calling for the price of silver to get above 50 this year, possibly get even as high as $70 this year. And so I could see why he could be looking at that type of momentum because
Mm-hmm.
once we crack over $40, there's less resistance to move higher and higher. Now I also got word, I don't know if you saw this, but apparently in the futures market, the short positions are being closed out. So
That's right.
there's a lot of bending knees and elbows down and capitulation, a lack of resistance. So I just want to get your thoughts there, Jerry, on what you think in terms of the back half of the year. Obviously, today's a nice one, but given the back half of the year, do you think we're headed for further consolidation in silver, or do you see a potential of $50 plus? Put your neck out there.
When we looked at the gold and the silver prices over the last few months, in fact, we've had about two I mean, since if you look at this chart here of gold, we've had a clear consolidation just in around this band since April. So a long consolidation period has already happened, and now that we have a a clear view of where we're going in terms of the Federal Reserve's monetary policy, interest rates are coming. So that is the light or the flame under the wick that is already full of fuel. We have all the fuel, all the fundamental reasons, closing out of short positions, running for the doors, asking for deliveries, stand for deliveries, all of that plus a great chart with momentum. When you have silver breaking out of that 49.50, which is only $10 away from where we are. This happens very quickly, as you mentioned. The release and the escape velocity that happens, it allows the market to move up very, very easily. The participation that comes into the market. Now it's not going to be retail, you and I. We know the retail buyers are very small. Less than 1% of the Canadian population own any precious metals. It takes industries. It takes industries to open up. Wait a minute, I need that silver now. Countries, I need that silver now. India's been after it. Russia's adding it to reserves. People have
Turkey's
to do
central
the
bank
same
bought
thing.
it.
Turkey?
I believe Turkey's central bank bought silver last month.
Well, I know the Iranian central bank a long time ago used to hold silver as reserves. Well, look, you
What was
convert
the
you translate silver in 14 different languages. It means money. In Chinese, it's silver house and silver ticket. Silver is money. Whether the Western mine is not there yet, we will see eventually why gold and silver have always qualified as money.
and there was a silver standard in the US, right? It was built on a dual standard, right? But there was a silver standard before the gold standard.
Yeah.
But Jerry, I want to on our radio show we were discussing um, upcoming technologies, and we were talking about servers and AI. And I've been thinking about it since yesterday, this idea of the industrial demand story has changed in silver. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was, well, uh, it's in military, it's in medical usages, it's in batteries, a lot of different things. But today, it feels like we're moving towards this new digital age where self-driving cars and all sorts of crazy high-speed things, and I don't necessarily think it's a sort of a green version of it, right? Green is great. It's great to have some solar power, great to have, electric cars, but it feels like the new technologies coming forward means that infrastructure is going to be built, right? Different types of energy. So it's not necessarily just green. It could be mini nuclear, right? We've seen
Mhm.
these new technologies of mini nuclear devices that could power your home for decades and all of these sorts of things. Or just the
Yeah.
growing batteries where you can charge a car for less than an hour and go 3 times as far, these sorts of things. Talk to us a bit about your opinion of the new building out of infrastructure and the different types of demand it could be having on silver going forward.
Yeah, I think the Kobeisi letter just this week actually really honed in and did a great job of honing in on the industries that are going to ultimately impact the demand in silver. This one would be the U.S. data centers in in and around the world, but it's in the US specifically, and how the growth is going to actually, because of the drain in electricity, it's going to exceed probably 4% of the global demand for electricity. And what's in these data centers? Every single data center. Now, this is to drive the AI craze. Everyone's using AI, Grok, ChatGPT, you name it. It's just getting bigger and more influential. And that is going to require, for every new server, you're looking at hundreds to thousands of kilos of silver in just new data center gear. And that's new gear for 2025 and 2026. What does a new gear look like for 2030 and 2040? The more and more that we advance technologically, there is no cap to the demand of how much silver you need, but there is a cap on how much you can get out of the ground, because going on 6 years, we're getting structural deficits coming out of the ground, not to mention the other demands that silver is going into, like the military industrial complex. They need a whole ton of silver for all of their nukes, all of their missiles,
Okay.
microplating. It just keeps going.
Okay, so speaking of that, I've seen the argument the other way saying, well, because you need so much of it, you'd have to cap the price because it's such a strategic metal. It's needed so much that you can't have the price go to $100 plus. What do you think about that?
I see, I've understood that to be the case for a long time. And I felt that we would see that. I think we've seen the capping happening for a long time with the advent of the futures markets and things to hold back the silver price. But you know, if this new golden age is one that we're going to be capping wars and putting peace and giving peace a chance and putting the war machine and cutting their budgets in half. The war machine is a huge end user of metal. So that can, in and of itself, could you know, cause the need to hold back the prices uh, to be put on the wayside and allow the prices to capitulate higher and eventually go to where they have to go. When you hold them as reserves, as major countries are starting to do as well, you get the benefit of having this type of collateral move up in value, so that you can afford continuing to purchase silver at $400 an ounce. You're not going to be out. You can afford silver at
Yeah,
400 an ounce.
I agree. I agree. I think that it's it's without context to say something should just be $50 or it can't go higher than that because it's needed. Because at the end of the day, it costs money to bring it out of the ground, right? So there's always going to be a rising price because things get more expensive. It's not getting easier to mine silver, it's only getting more difficult. So if you just
Right.
start from that point of view, you say, look, there's minimums to what this can cost to get it out of the ground. It's not going to be subsidized, right? And you want and profit is a great motivator. Can I make
Mm-hmm.
more for it? Great, let's mine more of it, right? And then at the same time, putting into context the value of the dollar, it's like if you were to keep $50 an ounce, this is how ridiculous it becomes. And gold goes to $10,000 an ounce. What is the ratio at that point?
Mm-hmm.
250, 300 to 1?
Yeah.
At a certain point, you've left the realm of reality, and that seems antithetical to everything we're seeing today, which is common sense. Let's get back to reality.
Mm-hmm.
Things cost money. Debts don't just take care of themselves. And
Right.
so if you can have a debt that's 37 trillion and rising, and if you can have homes that are a million plus, we're talking not having any deflation, of course, then yeah, why can't you afford silver at 100, right? What can you buy for $100 these days,
Not a
right?
lot.
Um, so that I can certainly see from a different context of just, hey, prices rise. It's not going to limit your cost if you're putting, you know, 10 grams of silver into a certain technical piece or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're
And
building the Manhattan Project every day,
not every day, just once or twice with
just
CERN.
once or twice. So it's good times for silver. We're seeing good momentum in the market, and we hope it continues.
Oh yeah, we feel it, we see it, it's happening, it's right before our eyes. Get your hands on your bullion while you can. Premiums are really fair. Guildhall has been sourcing this since for over 20 years. So get in touch. We'll be happy to help.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.
Take care.
Talk to you soon.